Hey y'all, this is Marley K. Hope y'all are well. Just want to give you a brief update on the Civil War situation that's going on with Texas and the federal government. So now it appears 25 states have backed Texas Governor Gregg Abbott in the border feud, and it is because of the states' rights issue that I was telling you about in the last video when I gave you the uh, warning about why we needed to pay attention to this particular situation, especially African American Black people, because this would officially mean it is the end of the second Reconstruction era. It would mean that we would literally be ready to go back to like Civil War times. And if you understand what the entire reason for the civil rights, I'm sorry, not civil rights, the Civil War was for, then you know it was about us. And so, like I always tell you, when you go back to the root of everything that's happening in the world, everything is about us. So this is why we can't afford to be slack on history. We can't afford to be slack on current events. We can't afford to slack and not know anything about policy and the Constitution and laws and different things, because all those things are going to impact us. And for this particular time, for end time prophecy, there are a lot of things that are already in place to attempt to keep us in captivity, to attempt to keep us oppressed and in bondage and as a surf class of this country and really of the globe. So we really must pay attention to this and understand spiritually the significance of it as well as in the natural. What does this mean for us? And if you're African American person, we live in the South. The majority of African Americans in this country live in the South. It means we'll have to deal with militias. I know a lot of Black people don't really, have lost. The past. They don't recall the past. But a lot of these militias have been activated and they are um, heading to the border in caravans, allegedly. I don't know that for sure, but that's the word on the streets. And so you're getting ready to have the government begin to clash soon with these alleged white identity extremists. And it's just going to be an ugly situation. So we just have to be ready for what's coming for us and not get caught up in any of this back and forth, all this bantering, all these different political sides or political views, because at the end of the day it's just about history. This nation was built on bloodshed, is going to end with bloodshed. These people that founded this country were fighting about their states' rights, and the rights of the people in those states to keep us oppressed. And while they have managed to throw immigrants in it, none of this stuff had anything to do with anything, because we weren't immigrants. They weren't fighting about immigrants. There was nobody immigrating here. There were people already here when this land was conquered, and then they went and got us, our ancestors, and brought us here, and they fought to keep us oppressed. And the states felt that they had the right to protect their own borders and protect what went on inside of those borders. And the federal government said we're a union. So these states decided they didn't want to be a part of that union. They wanted to be a part of the union that wanted to keep slaves and keep their own economy. They didn't want to share the money with the government. They didn't want to have to do any of that. And so that's what the war was about. And so we're headed back to the same type of deal. but most of our people don't really understand what's happening. A lot of people don't even know about the Civil War going on or the prelude to it. And they're not going to be ready for what comes after it, because immediately, once you succeed, you don't get the resources from the federal government anymore. And you are at war with them. So then you become an enemy combatant. I'm sorry, you become an enemy, not an enemy combatant. You become an enemy. And then that means our militaries can turn on each other. The National Guard, if not activated by the federal government, or even if it is, the governor could override that, and it just be a big old mess. So we really must pay attention to what's happening. But I just want to show you that 25 states now backing Gregg Abbott in the border feud. So a map of the state shows that nearly all of the Republican governors are now backing Texas Governor Gregg Abbott in his ongoing dispute with the Biden administration over his attempts to stop illegal migrant crossings into the state of Mexico. Into the state from Mexico. In a 5-4 vote on Monday, the Supreme Court surprised many by siding with the president, ruling that federal agents could, for now, resume cutting razor wire that Texas has been installing along a stretch of the southern border. The installation of the concertina wire along the Rio Grande was among several physical measures Abbott has taken at the border in his efforts to stem the number of migrants entering Texas. In the year to September 2023, nearly 1.4 million migrants entered the state illegally. So now just imagine how many more have entered since he took office, because when he took office and he got rid of all of Trump's old measures to keep them out, they just flooded. So, like, you can multiply that times 3 or 4. More than that are here. According to figures compiled by the Customs and Border Protection Agency, marginally lower than in the previous year. In the days since the ruling, Abbott has said the fight is not over and praised the Texas National Guard for continuing to hold the line. So you see how I want to make sure I say this, because I don't want anybody to be confused. I understand what's happening. At the end of the day, this is all theatrics. We are watching a movie. These are chess moves being made to get us into this new world order. Officially. Like, it's already official. It's already here. But they got to do it so that the slow people on the short bus and the people in the back of the room who don't like to read can get it clear in their spirits. Things are different. Things are not going back to the way that they were. And you're watching it play out slowly for you, so, so that in a way that you can digest it if you're this type of person. But for those of us who have seen this coming for years, we know what time it is. You already know the playbook, because they don't hide anything from you. You already know who's behind the scenes. So we're basically watching an orchestrated gradual demolition, and the two sides, remember, it's always two sides: white, black, red, blue, good, bad, Trump, Biden, Democrats, Republican, pro abortion rights, anti-abortion rights. You notice they only give you two options in everything, and it's intentional. And so with this fight, it's the same thing. Those people who are for the federal government ruling and controlling everything about our lives and giving everything to everybody, in a socialist way, or you are anti that, and then you have a different viewpoint, that the border should be protected. Anybody shouldn't be able to come into your nation. You shouldn't provide people with all these free things that people who live here can't get. You shouldn't use your taxpayer money from your citizens to um, support stuff like this. And we know where it's coming from. All these different tactics are coming from the World Economic Forum in Rome. So when you see this, understand there is a bigger picture. If you look at the backgrounds of a lot of these leaders, you're going to find that they either went to Catholic schools, they're affiliated with some, social or fraternal orders like the, Masons or other secret societies that pipeline people into powerful positions to do this type of work, keep white supremacy intact. Some of these people are affiliated with globalist agendas because the tentacles are long and they reach around the globe. Some of these people went to Catholic colleges and, they have a lineage that takes them back to Esau now. So people are chosen for the appointed time to do certain things. And I feel like this is that season. And I don't want anybody to get caught up in, just because these people are representing this state or this party, that they're somehow bad or good. The good and the bad are on both sides. I don't think any true good people have power right now because darkness has just overtaken this world, and the people who work for darkness, they are ruling. The people who are good can't talk. If you talk, you're silenced. If you talk, you're labeled as a conspiracy theorist. If you talk, you lose something. You lose your livelihood, you lose your job, you lose your place in society, you lose your way of life, you lose your friend circle. And so people are not willing, we got a lot of cowards among us. And so good people are not willing to take the risk, and are not enough regular folks are stepping up to the plate and supporting those who stick their necks out for us to whistleblow or to just push back. Not enough people doing that. And so that's one thing I noticed. People will pay to go to the Super Bowl. They will pay to bet, on games, but they won't support the people who stick their necks out to fight so that they can continue to do the stuff that doesn't matter. And so that's why you can almost assure that a lot of people are going to perish because of not enough people um, took the risk and supported those who took the risk in the beginning. In the end, which is now, it's going to be too late. So it says, in a statement on Wednesday, the Republican governor said Texas had a right to self-defense under the state's constitution, invoking laws designed to protect it from the threat of invasion, while accusing the Biden administration of failing to execute immigration laws enacted by the U.S. Congress, which I fully agree with. The White House has previously called Abbott's border tactics, like using razor wire, political stunts that were cruel and inhumane. Now, it's interesting that they call this cruel and inhumane, but when they do it, it's not cruel and inhumane. It's just crazy. Biden has faced calls to federalize the National Guard over Abbott's dissent, and doing so would mean that Abbott wouldn't even have control over his own National Guard, which would cause a huge problem in the state, and it will most certainly lead other states to give Texas their National Guard, which would set the country up for a fight, a civil war. In the year to September, the CBP recorded a higher rate of migrant encounters along the southern border, almost 2.5 million, than in recent previous years. Texas is one of 4 states to share the border with Mexico, but contains around half of the border's length. Abbott's invocation of self-defense clauses and his claim that the supreme law of the land supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary has been backed by all but one of the 26 Republican governors, the exception being Vermont Phil Scott. Included in the 25 to have signed a joint statement pledging their solidarity with Texas Governor were Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Ohio's Mike DeWine, and Virginia's Glenn Youngkin, and Arkansas's Sarah Sanders. Now, I remember a couple of years ago when DeSantis was talking about recruiting in the National Guard because he was going to challenge Biden on something else. And I always said it would either be Florida or Texas who would start something to get into this thing about this civil war. And I always just paid attention to it. So I'm not surprised at this at all. You could see the buildup since 2008. But what is surprising is that how so many people just don't see all these pieces coming together. They've been doing this for a couple of years now. So we're here and everything is going to be a mess soon. So it says if the Constitution really made states powerless to defend themselves against an invasion, it wouldn't have been ratified in the first place, and Texas would have never joined the Union when it did. DeSantis wrote on Wednesday. Texas, which prior to becoming a U.S. state in 1845 was an independent republic, has been subject to renewed calls to declare independence, a movement dubbed Texit, after the portmanteau used for Britain's exit from the European Union. And so you see how the Brits did with Brexit. So, like, there's been this constant thing in white nations with these civil wars. And even in black nations, like on the continent of Africa and in South America, they have destabilized most of the world to create a constant war for its benefit. And so now we're seeing the end of the Gentile rule, and it's basically eating itself. And it's painful to watch because we're stuck here with it. Youngkin said Virginia stands with Texas in the dispute, while DeWine described the situation along the southern border as untenable and just keeps getting worse. Sanders wrote that if President Biden won't defend us, states will have to defend themselves. So, again, 25 states have sided with Texas. That means 25 states have put on paper in writing that they are ready to support Texas in fighting against the federal government. Again, if this happens, one more thing I want to say too about Texas. Texas has been trying to get its own currency backed by gold, and so they're doing a lot of stuff to position itself to be independent, like a nation. And if they are successful, or if they do it, other states are going to see. People are going to be shifting around and moving, and economies are going to be fluctuating. The rest of the world is going to be looking at us, and they're going to pull out quickly of anything that has anything to do with us, because we will then be eating ourselves up from the inside. And it'll be just like the end of the movie Leave the World Behind, where everything ends up with the coup d'etat. They did this three prong long game plan to devour us from the inside out. And while it will look like other invaders or other nations did this to us, the snow people did this to us. They sold us out a long time ago. They changed the rules a long time ago, and they didn't tell people. And then they gradually made plans to transition from this nation as being the global superpower to the African continent to being the global superpower, and didn't really present it to us in a way that allowed us to see what truly was happening. So they've abandoned America because America is no longer useful to the world. All we do is export bad stuff. And although we did not do it intentionally, I like African American Black people, we played a huge role in it, but we were misled and corralled into doing what we were doing, along with the dominant society, because the Babylonians, they just gonna be Babylonians. That's who they are. They mess up everywhere they go. They do this every nation they create. It begins and ends the same way, and this is why we're chosen to be set apart. We're different. We don't act like them. We don't move like them. We don't think like them. And this is why we end up in the situations that we end up in, because we're not like them. So what we have to do is come out of the system before it falls, understand what is happening now. I've been telling y'all for years, use your money wisely, buy lots of non-perishable things, buy water, um, pull your money out and use cash so that your purchases will not be tracked when you can and if you can. Um, buy things that are going to help you survive if all hell breaks loose. It could be an alien invasion. It could be it could be a pandemic. It could be the cyber pandemic. It could be civil war. It could be a natural disaster. It could be, um, a coup d'etat at the state or national level. We don't know what is coming, but so many things are happening right now. You just have to be prepared for everything and anything. And think like a risk manager. You're managing risk for your family and for yourself. Try to do what you can to prepare spiritually and physically for risk, all sorts of risk. I don't want to call out one particular thing, but just be prepared for risk. All right, y'all, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification and hit all so that you'll be notified each and every time I upload new content. Please verify that you are subscribed to the channel, because I have lost viewers since I reached the 500 subscriber mark, and I don't know why. I don't even understand YouTube. It's crazy. But anyway, make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. Follow me on Odyssey, Rumble, Instagram, and Facebook. In the event that I'm taken down from YouTube, you can find my old content and me continuing to post content on Rumble. Be aware that there's probably going to be a cyber attack, a cyber pandemic, where we won't have power, we won't have internet, and you won't have information, which is why I'm talking about certain things that are going on now, because I believe those things are huge and will play a huge role in what happens to us over the next 2 years. So get it together, people. We don't have much time. America is going to fall quickly. And when it does, all chaos will ensue. Those who are prepared will be at home. Those who are not prepared will be in the streets looking for stuff. And you don't want to be those people. You don't want to be out there getting your head knocked upside your head. You don't want to be in the grocery stores fighting over anything. You don't want to be turning on your faucet and the water comes out and you don't have a plan for backup water. You don't want any of those things. You don't want to not have access to hygiene products and so on. So do what you can to get what you need for your families. And again, all we can do is keep watch. Just keep watch. Keep prepping, keep praying, keep seeking the Most High, keep crying out, obey those laws, statutes, and commandments, and please do not be attached to anything that you have in this system, because when it collapses, the first people they will want to come and do something to, the first people they will want to take something from, and they will take something from, will be African American people. That is the history of this country, and we should expect it to go out with a bang. It's going to do what it did to begin in this death. So be ready. All right. Love y'all. This is Marley K, and I'm out.